I think it's, it's going to get cleaner. So, you endured all the hard stuff, Mustafa. Now you should really get paid. So you should have just maybe closed partial position or what have you. I think you could probably risk down to today's low. Probably not going to see it. And this is also, I talk about that I trade the patterns, and then I also look within the patterns at the price action. And when I see these bars, made a new low, close at the high, made a new low, close at the high, made a new low, close at the high, made a new low, you can see that every time this thing does that, it goes to make a new high. So, it's a combination of visually just seeing the pattern and the price action. When we just stand back and look at this thing, it looks like a carnival ride, right? It's like if we just open this thing, it looks like a coin flip as to which way it will go. And to me, this was a no-brainer. This to me was always the governing pattern that took place 6 months ago. So now this will govern and dictate prices for weeks, months, and possibly years. So once we know that this is now in an uptrend, then we just try and, join the bandwagon, try and find ways to get in sync with what the market is telling us. And that's really what I'm trying to do. Just surrender to what the market is telling me. And certain trades are much more difficult than others. I won't pretend this is, a difficult trade. If you looked at this, you could have said, wow, this is a huge double top, and, away we go. But, if you understood the weekly chart, the more history the more, I just was ready for that sell-off and looking for, any opportunity to buy it. And when you saw this, that to me was, not the all clear. And I said it at the time. I said, we've bottomed, but because this thing came down so fast, this is likely going to, need some space to, build an uptrend. So there's a certain aesthetic to the markets. There's a certain way that the markets go up and they go down. If the market goes straight up, they don't just go straight down against it. They need to build space. They need to build room. Looks like the Dow Jones is starting to build some room to, fall over the other way. So, in the FX world, I, like the New Zealand dollar weak, short against the Canadian, against the US dollar. I like the dollar, higher versus the New Zealand dollar and the yen. And, no pretension here that, New Zealand dollar to me has been the best risk reward trade for a long time and probably will continue to be so. Shover says, will pound New Zealand retest the level before going higher? Probably not. I mean, look, sometimes you break out of these levels and then you do retest. So I'm not going to say no. But by virtue of this banging, against this so many times, I think the train is ready to leave the station. Meaning that once this thing starts getting going, I think it'll get going. Now, sometimes, in a healthy market, you do get a pullback, you get a revisit, and then when it makes a new high, that's when you've got real confirmation. So either way, this is going to get there. I'm going to keep my stop losses way out of the way. So if it goes this way and then comes like this and then goes like that, then, it doesn't matter to me. I've got a very long-term view of this. I'm not looking to get out, next week. So I don't really care. I've got the tiger by the tail now. I've got all of these entries down here. So, whatever this thing does up here, let it do it, and then when it goes up there, I'll be, very happy. And believe me, I will look to add to this trade, from here. I will look to add on pullbacks. So these are trades where I just look at certain trades as an opportunity to start building positions. And so I'm actually not looking to get out. I'm actually looking to consolidate and get more of a position. I'll give you an idea what that looks like. Let me just find this real quick. So it's not very often that you can kind of find these markets where you can just, sit in them. You look to, when markets are volatile and moving all around, it's, pretty hard to kind of figure out where to kind of just plant your. So this was the dollar yen a couple of years ago, where I sat in these trades for 3.5 months. So I think I talked about this trade where I told our members to get short at 111.61. The trade went out, I think, on the 23rd, but you can see that this got triggered on the 25th. So it wasn't 2 days later until after my email went out, my weekly email, that this thing got triggered. And I sat in this thing from April 25th to August 12th. That's 3.5 months. Sat in one trade. And then I, did a bunch of others. So then I added to it. Every time it went in my favor, I looked to add because I had a vision as to where this thing was going to go around the 104.5. I put my take profit around 105.17, and that was in the dollar yen. So sometimes the market starts setting up in a way where, you just want to camp out and let this thing work for you as much as it can. And this is how you make real money in the markets, not in and out 12 times a day looking for 7 pips. I'm, looking for these big monster moves that I can sit in for weeks and months and take out 650 pips. Now, they don't come along all the time, but, as you can see, you don't need too many of these. You get one of these a year, it's made your entire year. So this was the descending triangle that I was looking at way back when, and there were many other bearish formations that tipped me off that this was, in a bear pattern. And then I just saw this cadence of lower highs. You could see that the market was just making lower highs against, this common low. It hit this low twice. And so I started getting, an idea of what was going on here. And so right up here, right against this resistance line, I figured out, we're going to make a lower high and then come back and revisit this low. And that's exactly what happened. Now, I don't just arbitrarily wait into a market that's going higher and just say, okay, I'm just going to short it. I waited for a particular bar to show up. And here was this guy right there, this very narrow range bar. Now, this is a weekly chart, and you can see the range from high to low. That was the entire range. Now, what that said to me was that this thing just stopped going up. This is what happened in gold this week. I just took out $100 out of the gold market from the same kind of thing where I just detected that a market was running out of energy, running out of steam to the upside. And so these little, inside bars, they look benign, they look very innocent, but you can see that led to a huge reversal. So it was right in the same area as this resistance, right at this resistance line. So, it just seems like maybe I'm picking these things out of the air, but there's a method to the madness. And so basically, I just told our members on April 21st, put a sell stop there at 111.61. And I think we talked about this thing yesterday, where, in the first few days after the signal went out, the market went higher. And now with the resting order underneath here, if the market kept going higher, no harm, no foul. I wouldn't have been put into it. I wouldn't have been harmed. But you can see 2 days later, this thing reversed, picked me up, and I went on a 650 pip romp and stayed in that trade for 3.5 months. Now, people always talk about the take profit. To me, the vision, and I said right up here to our members that it's going to return back to these October lows, which was around the 104.5 area. So when I got in here, I kind of had a vision as where this thing needed to go. So all during this time where you had these, huge updrafts, and from here, you had 7 weeks of going higher against me. So all 7 weeks I held it because I had a feeling that we had to come and revisit these lows. So this is, kind of just understanding patterns, how they work, what the cadence is, and then also how, they stopped working. So for 5 years, this has been doing its job. And now it's starting to do something else. And by virtue of it doing that something else, it's telling me it's going to do something else. We almost have kind of this V formation. And so this is going north. Shoba says, is the color of the inside day bar of significance? It is not. So just because I was looking to, sell this thing and this was red, it doesn't really, to me, the inside day bar, the narrow range bar, it just represents a coil. It's just, an unleashing of energy, one way or another. You can see there was a very small coil here, and the path of, the energy was higher. So this just uncoiled higher. But no, it doesn't really matter where it doesn't, so I do look at how a market closes relative to the high and low, but on an inside day bar, I do not. And this is an inside week bar. So you can see we kind of had an inside week bar here. And, I just look for how this thing plays. So you can see we broke through the upside of this and it's starting to uncoil to the upside. And then last week you had this miniature reversal, made a new low, closed on the high of the week, and then you had some follow through. So I do feel like now this thing is going to start uncorking to the upside. So Osama says, thanks so much. I've been following you since April. So I'm trying to read this thing. You talk about not looking at 5 or 15-minute bars and not take 10 or 20 pips, but instead look at the weeklies. But then I see you trade in and out of Lyft beyond Zoom. Recently, you were short Tesla, and in 2 days. So how does it all connect together? So I get in off these long-term charts. And then, like in the case of gold today, where it just, spat out so much money so quickly, I just arbitrarily legged out. At some point, you just take the money. So, and then the way I get it, it's a little bit different with stocks, because stocks, with FX, you have a continuous 24-hour session. With stocks, you have an open and a close. And sometimes there's a disparity. There's an arbitrage. There's a way to leg into a trade. And I use the opening. If I like buying something, there's a key reversal or something, and then, the market opens lower, I buy into that. And I'm actually going to do a program where we talk about doing trades at the opening of the stock trading session. So this is CrowdStrike making new highs, and I wish I'd held on to this thing. I made so much money so quickly that I should have held on to it. So this was CrowdStrike a couple weeks ago. And I may have talked about this earlier this week. But the question was, you seem to trade intraday, what have you. So with stocks, they have a 24-hour session. They open, they close. There is your pre-market, there is aftermarket hours, but by and large, they close, and then 24 hours later, they open again. And sometimes those openings and closings offer you real opportunities. So when I was looking at CrowdStrike, to me, I saw this double bottom. This market had been kind of hugging this line. There was a double bottom there, and then it circled back and gave you another. So when I see a double bottom and then it starts coming back down in that area again, I mean, that's what Pound New Zealand did. Did a double bottom, then it also did a rounding bottom on the weekly basis. So I was already looking to, and then within that rounding bottom, you could see that there was these guys right here. It was like a little double bottom right there. Two prices right there. And actually, if you look real close, it was an inverted head and shoulders. You had a small little, my point is you had massive amounts of support here. And so this was on my radar to buy this. So when it broke out of this little thing here and closed here, I was already looking to buy this stock. And then what happened was that day, for some reason, the stock market, the Dow Jones was going to come in 500 points lower, and the Qs, which are the NASDAQ proxy, were going to come in 600 points lower. Just a huge down move. And this thing opened $8 lower. So the right hash mark is where it closed. It closed about 199, and it opened the next day at 198. Now this, sometimes the market just comes bearing gifts. So if we see that there is a zone of support here, and then we get a mismatch between the opening and the close. So I surmised that we had to go back and at least go back to unchanged that day. It's just, we get full, but if you hang on, it's easier to see when you don't. I don't know why this keeps. So when you can't see history, so this is what it looked like on that day. So that's where it closed, and then it just opened there. And so now I'm saying to myself, okay, does this seem realistic that it's going to open here and just keep going through all of this stuff? And I was like jumping, my wife is in my trading room here, and I never really talk about trading with her, and I never tell her what I'm doing. But she happened to be, and I said, this is to me the biggest gift in the world. And so I just started buying this thing on the opening at 191. And I think it went to a low of like 189. So it went like $2 lower. For what you see now is a $60 upside. So I risked $2, and this thing's now up $50 from that low. So I use, different things in the market, different looks, but I'm always trading off the long-term vision of it. So what is this thing doing? This thing's in an uptrend. It hit a double bottom. It came back and revisited these lows, made another double bottom, inverted head and shoulders. So I am using the weekly, the daily, the long-term vision to try and get into a cadence, of something. And then if it's giving me a look that, I don't like or what have you, then I'm dancing out of it. So, but I'm always using the big bars. I'm not dialing down to a 4-hour chart or a 10-minute chart to see if, this is a buy here. I know it may seem like a little bit, difficult to absorb all of this thing, but I'm basically using these daily bars, how things close relative to the high and low, and then using certain opportunities, within the market to leg in and leg out. But, just to keep it very simple, here was, I think I had it up yesterday. Here was the gold trade just 3 days ago, Sunday. So it doesn't have to be that complicated. I was looking off the weekly chart. So right here is the weekly chart. And I said, put a sell stop at 1861. I'm not sure what the price was at that time, probably about 1887 or something much higher. So all I did was put a pending order below here. If gold had, kept going up, no harm, no foul. And I said, the recent momentum gold appears to have stalled. Now feels like we could incur a backslide. I had no clue it was going to happen this quickly. I said a break below the inside weak bar could result in a break to 1800 or lower. Now I said this 3 days ago. And so again, to my mind, it's the market puts you in and the market, takes you out. And so I got out today just because I was making so much. There was no real take profit. There was no, entry or order to get out. You can just see that we've fallen from 1860 to, $90 very quickly. But this thing looks like it's going to, go even lower. There was really no reason to get out other than just I made a lot of money and I got out. I should have just got out partial. But this is what I was looking at. And so I just use the price action of the market to construct risk reward trades. And that's really what it's about. It's about constructing trades. It's not about being right every time. It's about constructing trades where you can, justify or feel out a risk reward. So right here was what it looked like on Sunday when I wrote my email. We had this inside day bar at all of this resistance. Now I saw this resistance on the weekly and the monthly and just thought, everyone was saying this is a buy, it's a buy. I know Mustafa's on here. He was saying to me at that time, do I think it's a buy? And for, no good reason other than just a feeling, I said, I'm not chasing these things, even when it made this key reversal here. I wasn't chasing it. I just felt like there was a lot of resistance in here and the market had to kind of, cut its way through here. And I said, look, I'm just going to let it, put on some more time. If it's going to do this, I'll wait till there's a better risk reward trade. So I didn't really feel, that it was going to go higher, but I couldn't really tell. And then I saw this little inside. So to me, this is like that dollar yen trade where the market makes a new high, market makes another new high, and then it stalls. Can't make a new high anymore. And so I didn't know. Really, sometimes you just put, your fishing rod in the water and see what you come up with. And so the way I do it is I just put a pending order right there. And, if the market had kept going higher, then, I wouldn't have been put in. And if I, did get, thing and then that was my risk. And, this is my, reward. And so this is how I set up the trades. I look at what the price is, what the patterns are, where's the resistance. It's a combination of a lot of things. To my mind, this has got, been in a long-term ascending, broadening price pattern. We looked at the pound Australian yesterday. It fell out of something like this. Ascending, broadening price pattern is where throughout the pattern, prices are going higher. It starts out life in the pattern very narrow and then broadens at the top. And that's why it's called an ascending, broadening price pattern. Now, typically, this is a bearish price pattern, meaning that when we come here and breach, that is the start of a bear pattern. And the thing is, we kind of know where it's going to go once it breaches here, which is all the way back to the beginning. So unbelievable as it may seem, this is what we could be in with gold. Stranger things have happened. I'll show you an ascending broadening in the NASDAQ that did exactly the same thing. That when the NASDAQ hit the lower end, it went on and made a new high. So what I've learned to do is put my structures, draw my structures around these prices, and then see how the market goes, see how they dance around these prices. So for right now, this thing is hurtling back down to the support level, which is around the 1700 area, hair above 1700. And then we'll see what she does there. Does she hold or does she break? But for right now, I got a pretty nice trade out of there. Let me show you what that NASDAQ looks like just to kind of put that into perspective. So this was what the NASDAQ looked like pre-pandemic, where it formed this huge ascending, broadening price pattern. But it's usually a bearish price pattern, but in this case, it touched this lower low. And, I'm always amazed how, I've been trading decades and I will never get over the fact that a market, goes to some high and then pulls back. You can't see it. There's another area exactly on the chart here, exactly to these support levels. I mean, to me, that's amazing. Some outlier that hasn't occurred for over 100 years, hits the market and it pulls back to exactly this support level. It blows my mind. And that's why I just love trading. I just love the elegance and the beauty of the markets. But you can see this was clearly not a bear pattern. It didn't break through the lower edge. If it did, it would have pulled all the way back to here. But you can see it caught a bid. And when it did what? Made a new low, close on the high. Made a new low, close on the high. And if you looked all the way back here, there was all these reversals in this. So all along this path, it showed you that this thing was pointing its way higher. And it's been doing so ever since. Every time it does a key reversal, it goes and makes a new high. So again, these patterns can act in different ways. So this is an ascending, broadening price pattern, the same as gold. Now, like I said, gold could come down here and do that, or if it goes here, it's going to go all the way back. But by drawing a structure around it, I can understand it. It's not just a random behavior to me. Mark says, are we allowed to trade gold in the USA? So you can trade gold in the USA through an ETF with the ticker symbol GLD. This, mimics, you don't get the leverage, or you can trade on the futures market and open up a commodities, but you cannot trade the spot market like on a Forex broker as you can in other countries. XAU, USD, you cannot trade it here. Sama, thank you for that. So are there any other? Danny says, which one do you prefer over the other? Options or mini futures, and why? So, futures and options and FX, it's all about leverage. So with stocks, you get about 2-to-1. My broker gives me about 4-to-1 intraday, but it's nothing like the 100-to-1 that you get with FX, or the leverage that you get with puts or calls. So to me, if I see something that is going to go right now, I'll buy a put or a call to take advantage of that. It's just more leverage, but it's a lot more risk. So it's not a preference. It's just, it all begins with an examination of the underlying instrument. Does the underlying instrument, pound New Zealand, do I see it going up or down? And if it's going to do that, in what time frame? At some point, the time frames get clearer and clearer. Obviously, back here, this thing had a lot of backing and filling to do. Now that it's cleared 199, kind of clear. So you can buy, options on FX. I don't really do it a lot. And so right now I buy a call option, on pound New Zealand. So I just use these things if I see an impending move, but it all starts with an examination of the underlying instrument, beneath the derivative, whether it be an option or futures or what have you. It all, ends and begins with, what do you think this thing is going to do? And when do you think it's going to do it? With calls and options, you have a finite expiration date. And like these Beyond Meat calls, they expire on me tomorrow. I could lose 60 grand tomorrow if Beyond Meat goes down $2. $2 is nothing, but it would, wipe out 60 grand worth of call options. Pedro says, how do you choose your stocks, just growth stocks? So that's a really good, thing. So there's kind of a divergence that's going on in the markets right now. You can see that the NASDAQ is making new highs and the Dow Jones is rolling over. So one's going one way and the other's going the other way. So, tale of two cities here. So all stock markets are not the same. All stocks are not the same. And, earlier in the week, I said that I thought the Dow Jones was going to roll over. Now, I also see the Dow Jones in the same ascending, broadening price pattern. And it looks like we're rolling right over at the top. This is the Dow Jones Industrials, and just kind of clear out a bit of this. And so this looks like an ascending, just like the one we saw in gold and the NASDAQ. And so to me, it looks like we're going to get a pullback to at least here. And if we go there, then, we could come there. So now I'm starting to look at shorting all the stocks in the Dow. So growth stocks are going higher and Dow stocks are going lower. So I might be long Tesla and short Caterpillar. It's, all markets are not the same. All instruments are not the same. So, right at the top here, it looks like almost like a cup and handle too. We have a teacup and a handle. So there's all kinds of stuff going on here that suggests that this thing could be ready to crap out very soon. So Emil, this is the USA 30, the Dow 30. So this thing looks like it's ready to come here. So we're 33.8. That's about 32, about an 1,800 point move, 5% or so. But if we get there, there's a good probability or possibility we go there. So, one of these markets is starting to turn earlier than others. And so now I will start looking, and I already started looking at some of the stocks in the Dow Jones, that are starting to turn. So Caterpillar is, already starting to get clobbered. Deere. So this is Caterpillar. You can see that Caterpillar's put on, double top and a head and shoulders. And the thing is, it's a very bearish looking head and shoulders because you have like a drooping neckline here. So this is Caterpillar. This is an Adam and Eve double top. I'm sorry, an Eve and Adam. An Eve is multiple things, and Adam is a single, but it's a double top. And you can see that it crashed through the neckline. So that was really the time to short it right there. And now also with the double top, you also have this head and shoulders. But the thing about this head and shoulders is that it's a drooping or downsloping neckline, which suggests that this is going to be a swift move lower. So this is very bearish. If you got to pull back to this little line here, I would love to see that. One more pullback to whatever this is, 215. And I would short Caterpillar. So you can see that, you're starting to change direction here. There's a major uptrend line that comes in about the 200 level. One of these uptrend lines has already been taken out. So, these stocks look like they're starting to turn. And this is a very bearish price pattern. This thing's over. Now, how do I know that? How do I don't know the fundamentals. I don't even know what this company does. I mean, it sells tractors to China. Why is it coming off? Why is it doing this? Why is just never part of my vocabulary when I'm trading. Never ask why. It's like when and how much do I have to risk to get in here? Deere, same thing. I think it's probably in the same space. Looks terrible. So these things start to roll before the Dow. So can you see I'm doing this analysis on the dollar yen, pound New Zealand, oil, gold? It doesn't matter. If it has a price, it has a way to interpret that price. So you can see this also a sloping downtrend line, which is very negative. It means that things are going to go down and go down fast. And so, I would love this thing to retrace just a hair, but it may not. Dieter, thank you. I don't really look at those, futures anymore, Dieter, just because my audience is, not trading all of those. So, are there any questions? I'll look at, everyone's asking me to look at different trades and what have you, but really what I'd like for the rest of our time to, see if you understand the principle that I look at everything through the prism of price. It doesn't matter what it is, that price is a discount. So I don't know why Caterpillar and Deere are turning now. Maybe it'll turn out that the Chinese economy is crashing 6 months from now. We don't know. The market knows. The market is ahead of these things. So I'm never questioning. I'm just looking at these patterns and then trying to set up a risk-reward relationship.
Mark, so Jose is asking if gold breaks support, what target do you foresee?
I already said.
You did?
Yes. Okay. So I said it'd go down to $1,200. So again, gold is trading. So let me again show you why I also was very hesitant, of chasing this recent up move in gold, even though everyone was, talking about gold higher, silver higher, the whole thing. And, based on the weekly, but also the monthly, these bars, you can see right here, these guys right here, this reversal at the high. Sorry, let me change that color. Made a new high, closing the low. Made all these reversal bars. So those are monthly bars. So you can see when we started to get into the zip code, of these bars right up here, I was saying, these guys, tell me that it's going to be a lot of trouble getting through here. So when this was hurtling up here, sometimes you can run into the knife by chasing it. So at some point I bought that, I bought the dip here because it was right on the low side of this support line, but then I stopped buying it. People were asking me what I think of gold. I said, I'm just on the sidelines for now. I don't really feel, comfortable. I'm going to wait and see what this thing does. So this is the monthly, and we can see that also on the monthly, this ascending, broadening price pattern. And you can see now that we're coming to the lower end of this thing on the monthly. We're not too far away from this monthly. It doesn't look like much, but we're only about $50 away. And so this is typically a bearish price pattern. When I saw this on pound versus Australian dollar at 205, I told our members, when it broke here at 196, that we were going to go to 175 or 178. And I didn't pick that number out of a hat. It was where this thing began. So this is incredible to think, but this could be what gold has in store for it. Now, how many blogs did you hear over the last year of people saying gold's going to 3,000? JP Morgan, everybody's saying that gold's going to the moon. Dollars being devalued, on and on and on. Now, it could still happen. It could still happen like the NASDAQ where we hit the lower end of this thing and now we pivot. I think in light of this price action, I think that looks very unlikely. You can see that the volatility has expanded up here. This, heightened volatility. When I mean volatility, you can see in this, the bars are very small. They're very controlled. But you can see all in this area, the expansion of the volatility. And to me, volatility usually precedes a change in direction. It reflects market uncertainty, market chaos, market emotions. And it usually precedes a turn. You can see how it was very orderly here. And then you got these huge bars. The bars started to expand and then it changed direction. So, I'm trying to compress 40 years of trading, into a 4-day thing. And I'm not going to be able to answer all of that, but I don't really need to. You just look at this picture and then let this picture be your guide. If this thing breaks through here, it'll probably, retest that thing and then break. As crazy as that seems, if I told you gold's going to $1,200 now, I'd feel like, I'm like the man on the moon. I'd probably be the only person in the world saying that, but there's a good chance it will. Eric, for the ascending broadening triangle, is it possible to go up or down? What is really the determining factor? Will it be the same? So again, you just have to watch the market. I just showed you the NASDAQ that hit the bottom end of its ascending broadening and went and made new highs. Whereas if you look at the pound versus Australian dollar, it did exactly what gold is looking like now. So this is on the monthly, but you can see it on the weekly too. I'll draw it very quickly on the monthly and then I'll go to the weekly, and because it looks a little bit better. So here is the ascending broadening on the monthly. And you can see when it cracked here at 196, I said we're going to 175, right at the beginning of that pattern. And so this is what, gold looks like it has the possibility of doing. And, I've learned you just can't question price. Price is ahead of the news. Price is ahead of the events. It's, you just got to be objective about what you're seeing. And with gold, nobody's objective, right? Everybody has some rationale about why gold's going to do one thing or another based on the Fed or, all this kind of stuff in the news. So here is this ascending, broadening price pattern in pound versus Australian. And right at the top here, I saw this double top. And so I was already starting to see the beginning of this ascending wedge formation. It was the same thing at gold. When I saw gold in the middle, I said gold was coming back to the lower end. So it's not like I'm pulling magic. It's just these patterns behave in a certain way. And when they break, they tell us where it's going to go back to the beginning of the pattern. So, we've seen now, 3 of them, but in the case of NASDAQ, it hit the lower end and went on, made a new high. So we can't understand or what's going to determine. All we can do is sit back and watch. And if this thing starts breaking through here, then it will, tell us. On the other hand, if it supports, it will tell us something else. So I just sit back and surrender to the will of the market. Michael says, do you have any general advice for getting better at trading? Probably could spend the next couple hours, but my advice is to do this, is to pull up a chart, whatever it is, and only look at that. So best thing is probably even scratch out the name here. So if I gave you this chart and you didn't know what it was, it could be corn, it could be natural gas, it could be, New Zealand dollar versus, the Japanese yen. And if you didn't know, then you would be much more objective, right? We all have an opinion about gold, and we'll hear something on the news about gold tonight, which will, color our opinion. So the thing about trading is that you have to be completely analytical and objective. Discussions, forums, economic, theories have certainly in leverage trading. So we're trading FX, which is on leverage. And, I'm certainly looking for, smaller term moves in the stock market or even the FX. So we want to know where things are going in a certain time frame. And, the market is ahead of the news. There's no way that I can go read the Wall Street Journal today and say, okay, this is, what's going to happen in gold. If we could, everyone would get rich. The market is a discounting mechanism. And so when the market is crashing here, it looks like for all the world that it's going to crash. And it looks like, this is going to stake out a huge, head and shoulders price pattern. But by virtue of the bigger patterns back here, once it, comes here and puts this double bottom, then to me, I think it's going to go back up. So in order to get better, you have to be purely objective. And then I'm looking at a weekly chart. I'm not looking at a 5-minute chart. So if I looked at a 5-minute chart, all I would see is this. Now, how can I make a decision about, taking 300 pips out of a trade when this is the only snapshot that I'm looking at? So if you can pull out and take a global view and kind of understand, and something like this is hard because this looks like, a carnival ride. It looks like a pick'em. But there are patterns back here that, to my mind, are governing and dictating this stealth bull trend. Lauren says, thanks for all the lessons. You're welcome. So when it comes all the way down to resistance start point starts to move to the left, then the signals to go bullish again, I don't really look at a resistance level. I start looking at what prices do. So, let's say, this is a support level, and it really is. There's, obviously a ton of support there. But, so this looked for all the world like a, head and shoulders price pattern. And then, this was the huge trap where now you go through the neckline, you say, okay, now it's bust the neckline, closes there. That's a weekly chart. I got the tiger by the tail. I'm short. I got this head and shoulders. And now you're looking at it, 1,000 pip loss and wondering what happened. So, I look at markets for what they do as well as they don't do. So this is a great example. This is a head and shoulders, which is a bear price pattern, which then the market should have done that. But once it didn't, once it kind of just stopped right at this neckline, You can see it was just like these bear traps underneath here and put on a double bottom. This is like Zoom and Peloton. So when Zoom and Peloton were coming down a couple of weeks ago, I thought they were going to go a lot lower, and then they put a stake in the ground. So it's not an arbitrary kind of support level. I just see that there's a double bottom here, and then, usually you can see price patterns. So here's a little inside bar at what have you. And so this starts telling me, that it's not going down anymore. So Zoom and Peloton were exactly the same thing. And I put out, I was shorting these things for the last 8 months. And then about 3-4 weeks ago, I said, these things have put in a tradable bottom, Zoom and Peloton. And it's, turning out to be more than just a tradable bottom since they made the lows. So, markets shift, and they start changing the picture. And this is why, I think the nuance, we see patterns in textbooks and what have you. And there's, so here to me was the double top Head and Shoulders, which told me that this thing was going to go lower. And from $588 to $288, it went $300 in one direction. And I thought for all the world, once it broke this neckline just a few weeks ago, that, we were starting a new bear trend, that this was going to go a lot lower. That was my premise. I was short. I was, made a ton of money shorting, all of these rallies in here. And then when it finally broke here, I thought, okay, we're off to the races. But this is where, you have to be completely objective and sit back. And so the question was, well, how do you decide to get out? What gets you out? What the market, starts telling me that there's something wrong here, where made a new low and then close at the high. Okay, so right there, I don't like those in front of me. And then when it does it twice, now you have a double bottom with these two key reversals here. And I said right at that time, I said both Peloton and Zoom, while I have been shorting them for 6 months prior, I said it's time to shift directions here. So, it's not arbitrary. The market just starts giving you a different signal. And so, this is not really a support area. It kind of broke through the support area. And then the way it behaved when it didn't continue going down. So sometimes, I'll often do something because a market just doesn't behave in a certain way. So now you've kind of got this opposite pattern that's now directing the new direction. And now the conflict is, is this just a short-term thing? Is the long-term is still down? Or is this the new pattern that's, going to lead to new highs? I don't think so. I think that, this is still, somewhat of a downtrend, but, where it ends, nobody, so I would then just pull out to the weekly and the monthly to kind of get more information about where I think this is, heading from here. So as you can see, the market's put on patterns. They put on, a double top here at 588. You could have had a nice ride to 288. But that was then, and this is now. Now you can see we had a key reversal on the weekly. You've got this inverted Head and Shoulders on the weekly. And so it looks like, I don't actually know what it looks like. It's still, but the thing is, all I look for, and I got long right here. When it broke above this resistance at 340, I got long here and made just a ton of money on the breakout. Now, as how much is this going to extend? I don't really know. You can see that we're going to come pretty close to this resistance around, I was looking about 380. So about 385, 390, you're going to come into some resistance. And I can't really decide what this thing looks like. Just like gold, what really disturbs me, the long-term reversals. Made a new high right at the top, close at the low. Made a new high, close at the low. Made a new high, close at the low. Made a new high. So you have all of these bars. So it's like gold. Once, Zoom starts creeping up into this geography, I'm not going to be chasing it. And that's what gold looked like last week. It looked like for all the world, it was going higher, but that's when you got to have a knowledge of some history. So, it just, a lot goes into the computer. So somebody said Zoom looks like gold. It does kind of, it has this take of this ascending broadening. and just maybe. So, you know, if we get a retreat back here, it could be one of these. So that was a good catch, Johannes. I thought the same thing. So Shalba says, since listening to your webinar, I've stopped looking at moving averages and oscillators. So to me, indicators are like, you know, driving, you know, looking in the rear view mirror, right? Indicators are about past information. So people are using indicators of past price information to make predictions about the future. And that's why they always don't work, or it's behind. So all I look at is this. This is all I look at to make risk reward calculations. Nothing more than this. There's nothing on this chart. There's no volume. There are no moving averages, no Bollinger Bands, no MACD, no crossover. I just look at a picture. And, you know, this weekly didn't, you know, you could see there was a double top right there and two key reversals. So when you see something like this, made a new high and close on the low, that is, you know, a warning sign. Similarly, when you make a new low and you close on the high, you don't want to be short against something like that either. So, you know, there's a question, you know, how do you get out? What makes you get out? The market, you know, starts putting on certain signs that, you know, you have to get out. So today I just arbitrarily dumped all of my positions in BYND. You know, I thought it was going to, you know, go higher, and, you know, it was very long, and then it looked good. And actually it still looks good. This weekly still, even though it came off today, but I had all these call, you know, options. So it's probably not going to happen this week. It may go up next week. I want to see how we kind of, you know, close tomorrow. But it just started just feeling like this area was not happening. So there was no really good reason to get out, because this thing still looks like it's on the up and up. It looks like a coil here. I just dumped everything emotionally. I just got out. There's no real reason to. You know, I made a bunch of money getting in here and getting out there, and I thought it was gonna, and I may just do it next week, you know, put on a push, but, you know, we just slid back today. I'm going to see how it closes tomorrow. It just seems like it's just got a lot of resistance in here, and it's, you know, it's just feels like it's getting, like it's losing energy, right? And also buried all the way in this thing, right at the start, is this key reversal right there. So you can see that that guy's been putting a lid on all of the price action. So now I want to see how we behave in here. I mean, I thought this was bullish. I still kind of do, but it just feels like it's running out of energy. So, you know, I'm just going to watch it here. And, you know, if we close higher and, you know, start going, you know, through this next week, you know, I'll look for a push higher. That's what I thought was going to happen. And then I just started getting nervous that, you know, we just can't get through all of this nonsense here. So I'm going to see how tomorrow looks. But in the meantime, I just dumped everything. And tomorrow I could be back in it again. So Theo, I don't know if Beyond will go up. I thought so. I was long up the wazoo, and I just dumped everything today. So I'll take a fresh look. You know, see how the bar closes. So on the weekly. So, you know, I kind of knew, by the way, it went this week that we weren't going to go, you know, so sometimes you have to kind of feel out how much. So by making a new low this week, you know, I thought it was pretty unlikely that we were going to go through the high of last week too, you know, do an outside key reversal. So I want to see how this weekly bar closes. Right now, it looks like a, you know, a reversal higher, a key reversal higher into, I would want to see this thing close higher on the week to feel good about, you know, it going into next week. If we just kind of close here, this thing is a bit of a carnival ride. I got very lucky, just, you know, just getting in here, making a whole bunch of money in this up move. And now, you know, I don't know what to think of this chart. I mean, I've been really actually very bearish BYND for most of its history. And I've made a lot of money. And there was just last week that I made a lot of money on the upside. And that shows you why you have to be, versatile and surrender. So to me, I see this head and shoulders in this time frame. I see the double top in this time frame. And then it was kind of by virtue of what it didn't do. So when I saw this double top here, again, along with Zoom and Peloton and all these others, and maybe it's just going to be a matter of time, once it cracked this neckline, I thought that, it was going to go back to $60. I thought we were headed back there. And then you can see that we put this little double bottom here. And when it started cracking through back up through this neckline here, that's when my antenna went off and said, this isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. And if it's not, it could go the other way very quickly. And still, so it feels like there's all kinds of, possibilities that this, wants to go back into some of this white space up here. And I put on a huge position in this week, expecting it would. And I, reacted pretty emotionally. I just had all of these call options that were going to expire. I just had to clean them off the board. And, I'll see how it closes tomorrow. So this is still a pick 'em. It still feels like we could, but I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff going on in this chart that, because when I look at this daily chart, we still may go higher. We may go to 188. We may go up in here, but you can see this key reversal here made a new high. I don't think you'll ever see that price again. So, that kind of puts like a cloud over this thing. So I don't know what to think of BYND right now. There's different patterns. There's not really a trend. This is obviously very sideways, and then it goes up or down outside the median quite a lot. And, I've been very successful just picking the patterns when it's going to turn from one direction to the other. And again, this is what I do. I just look at just the pattern. So this by and large is trading right in the middle of where, historically it's been. And we've just been, above and below this median for most of its history. And so how do you trade this thing? Well, to me, I just look at the patterns. I see this double top and trade it here. When it got back up here, I made a ton of money right in this juncture here. I thought that was going to be a huge key reversal, double top, and traded it. And my objective, like dollar yen, was once I understood the pattern that, I said that we were going to come down to this 113 area. And then I thought once we breached this thing, that it was, gone. And then when it refused, it just did this rounding bottom here, then I thought this was a short squeeze. And so, a lot of unknowns on this. I just kind of had a real feeling. But, again, it doesn't have to be a real gamble. So I started buying, the stock and the calls in BYND with, a very tight risk using this inside bar, saying that if I get in here at 120, my risk is 116. So I was risking $4 to make 30. So now, this is kind of a huge coil. We've got like this ascending triangle here and it's coiling, but I don't know. It could kind of, go either way. There's this guy right back here that, is also on red alert. So now you have to say prices have to get past that guy and, then get to this guy. So it could do it. I thought it was going to do it. I thought once, this was a short squeeze that, we would find a way to keep going higher. So I could completely reevaluate tomorrow. I'm going to see what tomorrow looks like. And Showa says, how do you trade through gaps? I don't really look at gaps per se. You can see this was a large gap, but what did it mean? It wasn't a breakaway gap. So I don't trade gaps per se. I know they're there. I like to see them when I go long and they just gap higher and the market just opens higher. But I don't really look at them per se. So these are, two breakaway gaps here that suggest that, this still is going to go higher. And I thought so all this week. And I just cleaned house today. I just got out. All right. So I think I'm going to end it pretty close to that note. Theo says, do you do options? I do options all the time. John says, your teaching gives me so much confidence. I learn something new on every live webinar series. Please continue to have these. I'm getting more and more and seeing things more clearly. Thanks to you. So thank you very much. Shabir says, where can I get all of the tutorials? Do we have a link to the 200K thing instead of playing the whole video, or?
No, not that I know of. I think
Okay.
they can email Zach for more info.
Right. So if you would like more info on our
so it's
daily-
Zach at thepatterntrader.com.
Yeah, I'm just writing it in here. Just email Zach if you want to be part of our daily email alert service. What I really appreciate from you guys, I've spent 4 days. Hopefully you've got some good information. I'd really like your feedback. I know, you're always hounded every service you get to give a review, but I would really appreciate it. This is the link. I'll put this in the chat box here. Eric says, thank you, Mark, for the great insights. You're welcome. Shoba says, this has been groundbreaking for me. So if you guys would be, good enough to say whatever you have to say, something like that, Shoba, you could just put it here and you write your review. Similarly, if you had a bad experience, you can, say that here too. So this helps us and it helps others, understand what I do. A lot of times, people who want to take advantage of, my traffic and my customers, they'll come on our review website and disparage me, say all kinds of, awful stuff. And just so you understand, it's not that my feelings are hurt. It's just they have a hidden, motivation that they do it intentionally because they try and redirect my members to what they're selling. So they try and impugn my credibility to then take you somewhere else. So I would really appreciate, first off, I would like to understand what you got out of it, because I know a lot of this operates in my brain, in my head, and I never know if I am able to get it across in a way that is understandable. So if you would say something, I would really appreciate it. I'm just looking at some of the questions here. Can we get access to all of these webinars, Manuel? So just, message us at support@thepatterntrader if you want. And then you could also go to our website, thepatterntrader.com. I think there's ways to sign up. I haven't been to our website in so long. So a lot of people are asking about our services, and I'm not always sure how to. Colin says, you tell it how it is in the Queen's Best English. Well, I used to talk kind of like the Queen's Best English. I was from South Africa and I used to have an English accent, but kind of lost that. Christian says, can you, so maybe, we can play the 200K video again, Dwight. A lot of people are asking. Do you have that available?
Actually, I didn't, because I wasn't prepared to play that one.
Okay. No worries. If you want, so Lorena says, thanks, Mark, for the 4 days. Very much appreciated. Learned lots of results showing my demo this week, and hopefully we'll replicate it going forward. Mohammed says, for me, you are a genius. I think you have a low bar, Mohammed, but thank you very much. Pedro says, cheers from a fellow South African. So let me just put, if you want the book, let me, I'll put that link here too. The book is a pay what you want offer. We offered it the other day, and then our team, has a limited. I don't know why they do that, but so it's not available right now. But I tell you what, for everybody who's interested in what we do, just send a message to support at the Pattern Trader, and I'm sure somebody will get back to you. I'm just the front guy. I do the dog and pony, and then my team just handles all of the the different things we do. So I don't even have the links there. So Abby says, how can I get your suggestions for emails and trades? So for my daily email alert service, just send a message to Zach at the Pattern Trader. Maybe I should say that the annual cost for the the daily email service, along with everything I do, my Friday session, my gold funnel, and everything we do, is $5,000 for the year. But we try not to let the price be a hindrance, and if we will work things out with you. So if you are interested in the program, genuinely interested, and not just not kicking tires, then give Zach a call and he will inform you. So Theo says, what is the 200,000 club? So instead of getting people right into the elite, going from 0 to 60 miles an hour in a Lamborghini all at once, the 200K program is how we kind of help you build confidence, build your account to a point where you have $200,000 in your trading account. So, everybody sees me doing these big trades, and, in order to, make $5,000 on a trade, we figured you need to have about 200,000 in your account. So we have a program to help you build to 200,000, and it's customized based on, your income and how much you want to put in your account and things of that nature. So that's what the 200,000 club is. And then, we just walk your way into the various programs we have. Ronnie says, thanks, Mark. Great information. Learned a lot. So Ronnie, again, if you'd be good enough to put something in the tip jar, give us a review on the, this review website. I would really appreciate it. Theo says, how much money do we have to start with a 200K program? Money should not be your consideration. Every journey starts with a single step, and money should not be an issue. If you are interested in learning, well, that's the whole thing. It's, we take whatever account size you have, Theo, and then help you build it up to a $200,000 account size. So it doesn't matter where you start. So Mustafa says, for me, the elite investment paid for itself within a week. So Mustafa, thank you. You're always so kind with your support and your remarks. All right, guys. If that's it, then, I was great hanging out with you guys for the week. I hope you, got some value and input. And, hopefully, I will see you somewhere along the trails if you, sign up. How much is the cost of the 200K? I don't even know, Pratik. I don't even know. Just give us a call, and try not to let price be a barrier, right? So what is really the cost of knowledge? So sometimes people will say, and it's a very valid thing. You have $6,000, and you say, well, I got to put $5,000, into the elite program. It only leaves me $1,000 to trade. And my counter to that is, how much is knowledge worth? So, at some point when, you build your account and you have a bigger account, how much is understanding, when your account is 10 or 20 or 30 grand, having that knowledge so that you're ready to go, so you can take that 30 grand to 500 to $1 million. And so I can't answer that question for you. I wish I had learned all of this. I took, this is just self-learning. I've made 40 years of mistakes to kind of come to a point where, I've had certain epiphanies and I can kind of put it all together. But if I could have somebody, go back 30 years ago and kind of put it all together for me, I would have saved a lot of aggravation, a lot of heartbreak. And so it's up to you. But we have all kinds of programs, and I would not let price be an inhibitor. We'll work something out with you no matter where you are. If you have a genuine interest, there's somewhere along the way that we can intersect.
Hey, Mark, I just put something in the chat that would help them to connect
Okay,
or to
cool.
learn more about the program, the 200K.
Okay. So Leah says, thanks so much. I've learned so much this week and made some money on your trades as well. So Leah, thanks a lot. And if you would, just cut and paste that and just put that in the review website, I would really appreciate it. If I don't know how these things populate, I'll just put it one more time. And so I want to wish you guys a great rest of your week trading. We've got one more day. And again, hopefully I'll meet some or all of you along the road. Thanks, Dwight, for helping out. Thanks,
Absolutely,
everybody.
no problem. All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.